Welcome to the Goats, where we go deeper than just the splits in training and into the minds and philosophies of the world's best trail and endurance athletes to find out what they can teach us about this little thing that we call life. I hope you enjoy. Today, I was lucky enough to have the absolute pleasure to talk to Holly Ranson. For those of you who don't know, she's had a pretty awesome year in trail. She had the experience to go over to Western States and finished 15th in the women's field, which is an amazing accomplishment, running the Western States course in, 17 hours. And that's a time that, historically would have put her up in one of the top positions in the women's field, which just goes to show the depth that's happening in women's trail running. But we got to, go past some of these races and the outcomes and find out a little bit more about, Holly, who she is, where she came from. And if you're someone who's, looking for a little bit inspiration to go for your dreams and the things that are important to you, I think you're going to get a lot today about talking to Holly, because she is someone who is, chasing something that she wants. She's chasing that happiness and that fulfillment and success in her life. And in the process is, taking some risks to get there. And so if you're one of those people looking for some inspiration, I hope you enjoy my conversation with Holly Ranson. Holly Ranson, how are you today?
Good, thanks, Quentin. How are you?
Yeah, awesome. I'm excited to be on here. We've had a very brief encounter, I think, at Fractal, and maybe a message or two through Instagram and stuff. But I'm excited to get to know a little bit more about you, and also share a little bit of your story and your, journey that you've had, which has been an amazing journey in the trail running world. And I'm sure you've got some very exciting things to share from your end too, and your experiences.
I hope so.
Yeah. First off, just for people who might not know yet, give just a brief, introduction about yourself, what you do, and a little bit about who you are.
Okay, so I am a dietitian. I live in South Australia at the moment in the Riverland, so about 3 hours drive from Adelaide. I am not working as a dietitian at the moment, but my last job was managing a team of dietitians and exercise scientists at Queensland Police Service. And I've been running off and on since I was about 18. I'm nearly 38 now, but did a lot of triathlon and maybe 6 or 7 years of just cycling in the middle there, and then came back to trail running in maybe 2019, and have been doing a mixture of trail, road, track, and backyard ultras, probably for the last 6 years or so. That's it. That's where I'm at the moment, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit of a mixed bag of everything, eh?
Yeah, definitely. It's a very winding journey to get here.
Right now at the point, it sounds like trail running, but maybe you could tell us if you're wrong. What's your favorite style of exercise or running or thing that you just really enjoy the most?
Yeah, I would say it's probably trail running. I really do like the road and track ultra scene as well, but obviously there's not as much hype around it. There's not as much media or sponsorship attention, and there's not that many races. And then when you do go to a race, it's such a big event that it takes you a long time to recover from it. So you can't do enough in a year to make it worth it. So plus, you've got when you're out on the trails, you've got the nature and the wildlife and that sort of thing as well, which is a little bit more interesting sometimes than running around a track.
Yeah. And so this is a learning process for me too, because I don't know too much about you as well. But tell us a little bit more, because I know you dabbled in that 24-hour track kind of world. What brought you to that point? Like, just, I'm going to go run around track for 24 hours.
Well, it actually started with a backyard ultra. So I was doing my first backyard ultra, and it was actually cancelled in the middle of the race because there was a thunderstorm. And so I was really disappointed because I felt that I had a lot of fitness and I was really hoping to do well in that race. So I looked for another race that was close by that I could do to sort of transfer that fitness across and feel like I'd actually got to finish an event. And I found a 12-hour, it wasn't a track ultra, it was around like a pedestrian pathway in Adelaide. a 2.5K circuit, I think. So I went and did that, and I broke the Australian record. So that was when I realized that maybe that sort of racing was suited my strengths. And of course, once you've done a 12-hour, the next question everyone has is when you're going to do a 24-hour. So yeah, the next year I lined up and did a 24-hour, and I think broke the Australian record for that. And I knew that I hadn't really given everything I was capable of. So yeah, decided to stick with it and do another one the following year, and then also go to the world champs for 24-hour running last year.
Yeah, cool. Now, I think the thing that like I like to dive into, before you talk about training and the specifics of how you get the body ready for that is what do you think, like what was young Holly, or who was young Holly that allowed you to move into attacking such big efforts and, doing these amazing feats of endurance? Like, where do you think that transition happened? Was it, were you athletic your whole life, or was there a transition or a point where you decided that maybe this endurance thing was for you?
Um, I was not really athletic as a kid. I did sailing my whole life from 6 till about 18,
Mhm.
and which is uh, there's some fitness and strength involved
Yeah,
in sailing dinghies, but it's probably more tactical and mental than anything else.
yeah.
And then just your usual school sports like netball, basketball, bit of soccer, that sort of thing. I didn't get into running until I was about 18 or 19. And then, I think by that stage, if you haven't run as a kid, you're probably never going to be really fast. But I really enjoyed it. And I realized pretty quickly that the longer the races were, the better I would do at them. And yeah, I just like the challenge of going longer as opposed to going faster. So yeah, I got into triathlon and quickly realized that the Ironman distance probably suited me best. So yeah, was doing that, and then I switched to cycling, and yeah, again found the longer races to be really more my style. I won the Grafton Inverell race one year, which is 220 k's, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think as soon as I got into endurance sport, I kind of figured out really quickly that the longer the better for me, and yeah, that's just what I've stayed with because I find it easier to go longer than to get faster.
Yeah. And how did you balance that with what I would imagine would be other aspects of your life going on as a dietitian, maybe family, friends, whatever it is? How did those two parts of your life kind of commingle and intertwine?
Well, I haven't been particularly good at striking a balance between all of those things because I've always wanted to take the sport too seriously, I think. So
Yeah.
I got my professional license in triathlon when I was at uni. So I was studying full time and working 3 jobs. And they were all in the fitness industry. I was taking gym classes and that sort of thing. So I was very exhausted all the time, and I was riding my bike everywhere because you can't park in Adelaide City where the uni is. So I was doing an awful lot of exercise, and eventually that was kind of why, I started getting stress fractures because I wasn't keeping up
Mm.
with the nutrition and the recovery demands of it. And then I thought, well, I'll come back to this sport when I have more time, when I'm not studying and working 3 jobs. So that's when I shifted and went into cycling. But yeah, I never got back into triathlon. Then I think cycling was a little bit easier to manage because typically bunch rides start really early in the morning. People get it
Mm.
done before work. And yeah, I think even though I was racing at a national level, it's not, well, at that point in time, it wasn't professional. So you weren't racing against women that were doing it as their full-time job, which I was in triathlon. So it didn't feel as much pressure to spend as many hours training. So that sort of worked a lot better. And then, yeah, recently when I've gotten back into the trail running and ultra running side of things, yeah, I was trying to combine it with a full-time job and study for quite a long time. And then, yeah, had the same sort of realization that if I actually wanted to be competitive with the best in the world, that wasn't really going to work. So something had to give. And yeah, just at the start of the year when I got the golden ticket to go to Western States, that's when I ended up stopping work because I was due to start a new job, and that it wasn't going to work with getting the time off to go to America. So all the factors just collided, and I stopped working. And yeah, I haven't been working since then. So it's been much easier to to focus on the running, the training, and the recovery since then.
Yeah. Going back to, like you mentioned, the period where you said you were starting to get some stress fractures, you were trying to balance three jobs, there was a lot going on. In that point, did you feel like you were improving, or did you feel like it was just a lot of work that wasn't maybe doing as much for you as far as maybe like your happiness and success within sport?
I think I was improving until I started getting injured, and that was basically because I was new to the sport, and you're on a fairly steep trajectory when you first, especially if you haven't sort of been in endurance sports all that long. Just building that base and that consistency will allow you to improve very quickly. But yeah, I was very frustrated and constantly exhausted and tired, and yeah, I knew that I wasn't getting as much out of it as I could have been if I was taking it more seriously and resting more and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's why it didn't last. It wasn't sustainable.
Yeah. So what was the big, obviously, the getting fractures always makes you shift your mindset a little bit, but where from that point when you realized this wasn't going to work, what were the first big changes that you made in that process?
Well, I didn't envisage staying in high level sport at that point in time, but I had some friends in the cycling community who I'd met through, just riding for triathlon, and they very quickly convinced me to come and try bike racing. And as soon as I did that, I just loved it. So yeah, I switched right over to that, and yeah, I think it was easier because just having one sport, it's one focus. And, I was doing all the commuting by bike and stuff as well. So kind of all those junk Ks that were really just making me exhausted before with the triathlon career were actually sort of contributing a bit more to my training. Yeah, I felt like rather than trying to be a master of three different sports, once I could just focus on the one, that did make it a lot easier. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because you look at now and you're very dedicated and very motivated. You quit your job, you stopped, working essentially to pursue this sport. But back then, was the mindset always to try and become a professional athlete, or was it more just you loved competing, so it was something you did on the side? Like, where was your head at in that phase?
I think I definitely would have gone professional if I'd had the opportunities to, but
Yeah.
um, it's something that I still haven't really figured out. I don't know how, there was a few women racing as professional triathletes back at that time, but yeah, I was living in Adelaide. I wasn't well connected to people or brands. I think a lot of the stuff was originating out of Sydney. I was 18, 19. No, I was a little bit older than that, maybe 22, 23, but
Yeah.
I didn't have any idea how you did that. And it's been a theme through my life that I don't have any spare time to actually concentrate on that. When you're studying full time and working a whole bunch of jobs just to try and pay the rent, there's no spare hours in the day to figure out how you go down that path. So nothing ever came to me. So it just kind of, yeah, I realized I could compete with them physically, but yeah, when it came to the recovery and all the little one percenters that professional athletes do, that amateur athletes don't, that was where I fell down, and that's why I kept getting injured. So
Mm.
yeah, I've probably chased it in one form or another since then, and I guess this is kind of the closest I've got, even though it's more or less pretending to be a professional athlete because I'm really unemployed.
Hey, no, that's cool. The one thing that I'm kind of wondering is, so like when you're in that phase of, yeah, you're doing work, you're doing your dietitian, you're trying to possibly, become an athlete. Maybe it's in the back of your mind, but it's not really maybe a main focus because of other things in life. What keeps you motivated to like keep training and keep trying to train at a high level? Because I think like for a lot of people probably listening, sometimes there's probably that disconnect of like, well, why am I really doing this, right? There's so many other things in my life. I'm not trying to be the professional athlete maybe right now. It's like, well, why do I keep trying to train at this level or this amount or consistently across the weeks? What was the thing that kind of kept the ball rolling for you?
Oh, I think the main thing is just because I love it. It's what I enjoy doing. If I enjoyed doing something else, I probably would have gone off and done something else. But I just love the process of it. And I think trying to be the best that I can be, it's a job that's never done. So, um, yeah, there's no you've ticked all the boxes. Now you're as best as you're ever going to get. So it's time to stop. Yeah, it's just a continuous process for me, and it's a process that I enjoy. It gives me a lot,
Hmm.
both inside and outside of sport. So yeah, I'll never stop. It'll always be part of my life, regardless of whether I'm competing or not.
Yeah. Awesome. How much do you give I guess best way word is how much do you think back then contributed to your success now? And was there any major things about who you were, the decisions you made that think had a really big impact on Holly Ranson, the athlete now?
I think it's all setting the foundation, learning how to train, the basic principles of training. I mostly coach myself.
Mm,
So yeah, learning through, back in those days, reading books, and then, more recently, the internet. But yeah, I think you you just accumulate a lot of experience, a lot of racing and training experience, which teaches you how to overcome difficult moments. Um, and practical experiences is always a race that goes wrong, and you have to problem solve, and you carry all of those little learnings with you along the way, which yeah, even if you're not specifically thinking about lessons that you've learned, it's all in there somewhere, and you can draw on all of that experience in your racing, which yeah, I think is probably one of the reasons why older people succeed in longer distance events is
mm,
just from that life experience and that long training history.
mm. Stacking those years and those months of learning and failing and succeeding and failing. And yeah, no, that's awesome. My next thing is, so where do you think, and I maybe have an idea of what you might say, but where do you think was your kind of like breakthrough moment in the trail running world, which is your kind of like life now? Was it a certain training session or maybe even a block of training, or was it an event, or, you know, what was that trigger moment for you? Or like, oh, maybe I can do really well here.
I think again, it's probably more an accumulation of confidence over the time and just keeping on performing well in races. Obviously, the winning the golden ticket at Tarawera this year was a big moment in terms
Yeah.
of um, career, but you know, people would probably argue with this, but I see that more or less as a bit of skill and a bit of good luck. It was just really luck that both Ruth and Caitlin happened to not need the tickets and they rolled down to third and fourth. But yeah,
Mm,
obviously I did the work to get into fourth. So
sure. Yeah.
um, yeah, that's probably the biggest moment in my trail running career, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And you go out to this race, you obviously, I'd imagine, were feeling probably pretty confident and strong going into it with the performance you had, or were there other thoughts? Where was your head at going into a race like this with a golden ticket on the line?
Yeah, so I actually went into it with no expectations. There was a really strong lineup of elite women in the field, and I didn't think that I would be anywhere near the pointy end. The year before, I had gone into it with a really strong focus on winning the golden ticket, and I'd also gone into it sick and didn't have a good race. And yeah, I was too focused on the outcomes of the race to really just enjoy the experience. Whereas, so this year I decided to just go into it with no expectations, no pressure, and try and just enjoy the course and enjoy the experience. And yeah, it led to a much better performance. And I think there was other factors like the weather, which affected some people more than others, where the trickier conditions probably suit me a lot better. So yeah, that worked into my favor.
Yeah. So do you think you would hold on to any parts of the way you were coming into that race for future races?
Yeah, definitely. I've tried to, and I think I'll continue to try to. Yeah, it gets harder depending on what your goals are for the race. Yeah, if you've got a specific time goal or something in mind, it's sort of harder to let go of the outcomes and just trust that it will happen, um, because you're sort of monitoring it all the time. But yeah, I know that now that my best performances will come when I'm enjoying the experience. So that's a big part of what I try to do.
Because I find we see it a lot, right? Where, that athlete comes in who's not expecting to like maybe be in the top because of the same thing as you, right? Oh, yeah, there's some good athletes out there. I'm not really going in here expecting to have my day. And so you throw yourself into the process of things of just like, I'm going to run my race. And then you have, one of the best performances on the day. And it's like, do you think with all the pressures that can come with eventually, winning races and being the name there, do you think you can still hold on to that and do that, even if you are maybe expected to win a certain race or something now?
Yeah, I think that's a good exercise for your mental strength is being able to recognize that that's what other people or you think that other people are thinking of you, and you just need to let that go and not really worry. You're there to do it for yourself and not for anybody else. But I also think the more results that you have and the more I've continued to prove to myself that I can race the way I want to race, there is also a lessening of pressure there, because I know, I've performed in 10 out of 10 of the last races. It doesn't matter. Everybody has a bad day. So if this is my bad day, it doesn't matter. I haven't had, touch wood, I have never had a DNF in a trail race. I've never had a really terrible day. So,
Mm.
um, I know it'll come at some point, and we look at other athletes like Courtney Dauwalter or Abby Hall or anyone who has had great results, and people have looked at them to continue with those good results. They still have bad days, DNFs, things that don't go to plan. So yeah, no one can be perfect all the time.
Yeah. And I think that's the like that pressure there, or that can come from racing, is something that like anyone can actually relate to, right? Not just the tops, because nowadays there's always this pressure of like, how you should feel or look as a runner, or like all these different things, right? That can create pressure around how someone should perform in a race. But ultimately we can all, if we can get rid of that, external pressure and focus on the race and the outcome, what we've done, it's going to help anyone, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think that's, probably one of the reasons why I don't engage with social media all that much, is because I think that's where that comes from, is that comparing to other people. And I don't think it's healthy, and I don't think it helps us enjoy the experience. Yeah, I think if you're running trails, you're out there to experience the beauty of nature and, connecting with other runners. It's a real shame that people might think they needed to look a certain way doing it, or, that's from my perspective and
Mm.
along my values. I'm sure other people have different ideas, but yeah, I would really not like to be worrying about how I look when I'm doing a trail race, because it's not pretty.
Yeah. No, no. And like you said, everyone has probably their own little insecurity or pressure point, and it maybe not even looks, or, some people too, like who have coaches, right? And, put in all this time and maybe are now expecting or forcing themselves to, have a certain result. And then where it's like, you got to give yourself a little bit of grace, right? Still, no matter what, right? Because, we ultimately, as much as we love to think we have this big understanding of physiology, right? We don't have all the answers, right? And
Yeah.
so, we just got to go out there and give our best. And if we do that constantly, then, like yourself, positive things will come from it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, that's awesome. I mean, first off, like, congratulations. Like, that's such a cool experience. And I remember watching some of the like videos back, and I could see just how like authentically happy you were for that, like getting a solid ticket, and kind of like, and that's such a cool moment, right? Because you see a lot of these elite athletes who, and and some of them are humble and great people, but it's almost like they get complacent, right? Because they've been in it for so long, and it's just kind of like normal work. And then you see someone like yourself come through and just are overwhelmed by the experience because it wasn't what you expected, and you put the time in, and got something out of it that um, that you weren't expecting. But I think that experience is shared, right? with
Mhm.
so many people, like coming out to a race and maybe expecting, oh, you know, I'm planning on running in, you know, 10 hours, right? And then they come out and they run an hour faster, right? And it's like, oh, my, man, like, how amazing is this, right?
Yeah.
But can you share a little bit more about, you know, you've got the golden ticket, you know, it's an exciting moment. What were your thoughts going around? Like, what were you thinking in that moment right there? Were you excited? Were you okay? I gotta stay humble. I gotta plan for the next step. What was going on? Yeah.
I think mostly excitement in the moment. Yeah, because the previous year I'd tried so hard to get it and I'd missed it by so much. And yeah, I really wasn't expecting it. I think I'd forgotten all about it, to be honest, by the time I crossed the finish line. And then, yeah, when I saw Carrie coming over with the big golden ticket, I was like, what is this? So yeah, initially just excitement and then, a bit of, oh my goodness, what are we going to do because we were just in that process of I was about to move house, move jobs,
Yeah.
all those sorts of things. We'd just had this big process of decision making over what we were going to do with life and where we were going. And we'd spent a lot of time figuring it out. And we'd finally come to a conclusion and started making plans for that to happen. And then this just came in and changed everything. But we said to each other after the race, let's not think about that tonight. We don't need to be thinking logistics right now. We just need to enjoy this feeling and, process this and enjoy the moment. So yeah, I think we spent a day or two just, yeah, sinking in that we had this massive golden ticket and yeah,
Mhm.
trip to America to plan.
Yeah. And this is kind of, I would love to dive into this kind of mindset with you going into Western States because I mean, Western States, one of the biggest races in the world, right? Like, you know, going to be some top athletes there. How do you feel going into a race like that? Like, what were some of the emotions coming up when you decided and you pulled the trigger saying, Kate, we're going. What do you think about what to expect from this race? What are you going to get?
Yeah, I was really excited about it. Obviously, because it's such a race that so many people want to get into, and it's so highly spoken of. And it probably suits my strengths and as a runner more so than something like CCC or UTMB. So I was really excited to go, and of course, I was nervous to be competing against that quality of competition, but I also felt that I was coming in as a completely unknown person. I didn't have the pressure of like sponsors to please or anything like that, whereas a lot of my competition would have that. So really, it just felt like I had a free shot at it. But I still wanted to prepare as best I could, which was why I ended up going to America 5 weeks before the race for the training camp weekend and then staying there and doing a lot of course recon and acclimatizing to the weather and the altitude and that sort of thing. So yeah, it was a free shot, but one that I wanted to put my absolute best foot forward for.
How how much do you think going there that 5 weeks ahead helped you in the race?
Oh, so much. Basically, well, a big part of that was because I went blind in one of my eyes for nearly the whole race. So having a knowledge of the course already was
Yeah.
really, really helpful.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, I think in any race, it's useful um, to know, how far you've got coming up or how long is this climb or what sort of technical elements are on this descent. I probably, in hindsight, should have spent more time at altitude as opposed to more time in Auburn. And I spent a lot of time in the sauna because everyone says how hot the race is going to
mm.
be, and then it turned out it really wasn't very hot at all on the
Yeah.
day. So, if I if I went back, I'd change that. But you never know; you can't possibly know that that's going to happen. So it was imperfect as everything is, but it was also amazing, and I definitely wouldn't change that. I think if I got in again next year, I'd probably do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And congratulations on the result. Like that's so cool. Like I know it's not all about the results, but 15th woman in Western States, like that's something that you should definitely be proud of. That's amazing. What was your thought process after this event? Like, you know, where was your head at? Were you proud of your efforts? What were you thinking?
I don't know if I'm ever really truly satisfied with how I perform. 15 definitely wasn't what I was hoping for. I was absolutely hoping for top 10.
Yeah.
And maybe on another day that might have been possible, but I think the combination of the weather, the eye thing definitely didn't help, but there's no way I
Mm,
would have run 2 hours faster, even if I'd been able to see perfectly.
mm,
Um, I think I probably underestimated my abilities and planned. I'm very good at running to a plan. So whatever I set out in the plan, I'm going to run exactly that pace, even if I probably could have run faster. So I'd used last year's 10th place as a template for my run. And
okay. Yeah.
basically, yeah, used her splits as my plan. So yeah, if I had done what I did last year, I would have finished 10th. But this year it
Yeah.
was just too competitive. And yeah,
Yeah.
so I probably should have planned more to race the race in the present as opposed to
Mm,
just lining up against those old splits and
yeah.
running my own race. But yeah, you always learn something, and I knew I wasn't going to do perfectly the first time I tried that race.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a lot of athletes have said about that race, would you actually say then, and you tell me if I'm wrong in saying this, would you actually say that then you kind of said it there that you maybe didn't actually run your own race as much as you probably should have because you were focused on that, like that time and that 10th place split. And you kind of, like you said, you run to your splits.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think with ultra running, you kind of need to do that to a certain extent because if you get caught up, and this happened to me the first time I ran Tarawera,
Mhm.
you get caught up like, oh, there's Ruth, there's Lucy, I'm going to keep up with them. And you end up running the first 20 kilometers, so close to your lactate threshold that you're going to explode. And, the rest of the race is going to suck, or you might
Yeah.
even have to DNF. I was planning to be fairly conservative, especially early in the race, because I'd never done a 100 miler before and I didn't know how, the weather and everything, the big climbs, we certainly where I live, there's absolutely no way you can practice a 40-minute climb. There's absolutely no way. And so, yeah, I was worried about the canyons and my strengths
Mm,
there. So yeah, I did plan to go conservatively, and it's only in
mm,
hindsight that you can turn around and say I could have
yeah.
gone faster. But at the time, you're doing that so that you don't bomb out in the biggest race in the world. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's cool. Now you've got a really good, if you ever do get the opportunity to go back, you've now known that you've been able to execute the race, right? And
Yeah.
so that probably gives you a lot of confidence rather than coming in with a big blow up, right? And then going
Oh,
on, I don't know
definitely.
what to expect.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really hope I do get the
Yeah.
opportunity to put those learnings into place.
So is that, I guess, speaking of like moving forward, is that a future mindset and goal and something that you're driving towards?
Yeah. I haven't actually sat down and planned 2027 yet. I've got a
Mhm.
few things that are locked in, but the golden ticket calendar is such a tricky one. But I think realistically, the only option for us here in a cost-effective way is to do Tarawera again. And then I've got a couple of races locked in March. So possibly if I don't get the ticket at Tarawera, going over to the States for Canyons 100, but it's such a late race in the scheme of things. It's the end of April, which only leaves you a couple of months to prepare for States. And then it's
Mhm.
that awkward time. Do you fly back to Australia and then come back to the States a month later, or what do you do? So I'm hoping it doesn't come to that. But yeah, we'll go back to Tarawera, I think, and just see. Or it depends. I'm doing Costa Cosi in November, so it depends on how my
Yeah.
recovery goes from that. But yeah, that's the loose plan at this stage.
That's another cool question now because I'm starting to hear and see this kind of map of like, you just actually won overall the Barradorf 120K. And is it next weekend is Transcend?
Yes.
Transcend, Costa Cosi, Tarawera, right?
Yeah.
Out
Yep.
of the thread that I'm seeing right now. Here's like a great question that I think, because there's a lot of people out there too who probably like to race a lot, right? They enjoy going to events, they go into the atmosphere. Is there anything about the way that you train and the way that you manipulate your training that allows you to maybe take on more races than maybe what could be, tolerable?
I think especially this year, I've been so lucky with not working. I mean, that's just been a game changer
Mm,
in terms of recovery and the ability to travel a lot. Um, it's definitely not sustainable when you're working full time, that's for sure. And I
mm,
guess I've also been lucky in terms of now that I have a bit more of a, I guess, I don't know, reputation in the community. Suddenly get some free entries here and there from race organisers, which helps a lot. And over the last probably 12 months, we did a whole bunch of fundraising on a platform called Australian Sports Foundation, which is like a registered charity for athletes and sports teams. They can put up a page, kind of like a GoFundMe sort of thing. And so we were able to raise a fair amount of money through that, which has really allowed me to chase these goals. Otherwise, yeah, there's no way it would be
mm.
realistic for me to have done the racing calendar that I have this year and into next year.
Yeah, and that's it, right? Stress is stress, no matter which way it's coming at you. Um, to go then maybe into the specifics to help people, would you say that there's any way that you have to manipulate and change your training when you are maybe in these blocks of more racing, just to navigate intensity versus easier running? Is there any way that you look at that?
Uh, yeah, so I think it depends on the purpose of the race. So these races last weekend and this weekend for me are just a training, really, as a training block as
Mhm.
a base for Coast to Cosy. And there wasn't really a strategic direction. It was because the race organisers are mates and just had the opportunity. I'm going over to Perth to crew Phil Gore for his Project 168, his
Sure.
week-long
Yeah.
backyard ultra. So that's, why Transcend sort of got on the radar. So between the two races, this is going to be a very light week. I've done some bike riding. I'll do some mobility stuff. I won't do any gym. I won't do any hard runs. But leading up to Barradorf, I didn't really taper off because this being a sort of training block, I didn't see any reason to taper that down. And then, yeah, I'll give myself a good recovery after Transcend, particularly because I'm going to be spending a week um, working overnight, on Phil's project. So my recovery is going to be compromised. So I know I need to, after that, have a really good recovery to make sure I don't get sick or injured during the build to Coast to Cosy. But yeah, I think it's all about your intention for the race. If it's an A race, of course, you're going to taper down significantly and then have a good recovery afterwards. But yeah, you got to look at it in the context of your calendar and the priorities of the different races, I think.
Has there been any tough moments within this, like where maybe the mental side of things has been tougher for you to navigate, where, maybe any kind of thoughts have come in that have maybe slowed you down or taken away from where you've wanted to go, and how have you navigated those moments
Do you mean in a race or just in
in
life?
in anything in general? Yeah, has there been any tougher moments for you that you've had to work through, and how have you done that?
I guess it's been challenging for me this year. I've been really trying to move into a space where I can make running a sustainable career, and that's
Mhm.
probably really a lot harder than I imagined it would be. So, I guess when you're trying to get sponsorship, initially you're probably thinking that you don't have a good enough results sheet to, that they'll sort of come looking for you when they feel that you're a good enough runner. But then after years and years of winning races and setting records and all this sort of thing, you start to think, well, maybe that's not it because I actually have good results and probably better results than a lot of other people that are sponsored athletes. So
Mhm.
then you start to think, well, is it me? Like, is it my personality? Is there something wrong with me? Am I just a bad person? So you sort of have to
Right.
navigate all of that and try and retain your self-worth when you're dealing
Mm,
with companies that, yeah, I guess, not reflecting the value that you see in yourself.
mhm.
So yeah, that's probably been challenging, and I've been lucky that I've had some really good friends that are more better at this sort of thing than I am, because yeah, I'm not the person to be assertive about my own value. So I'm lucky that I've had people that have stepped in and helped with that. But yeah, it's definitely still an ongoing process. And I think just finding out exactly how difficult it is to make a living out of this sport in Australia,
Mm.
um, that's been a really sad realization for me, because I think we have some great trails, we have some great trail runners, and yeah, now at least I know that it's not all about me, and I'm not necessarily the problem. The problem is that companies just don't have marketing budgets in Australia, because our
Mhm.
market is comparatively so small. But then it's like, what do you do? You're forced to leave your home and your job and your family and everything to go and live overseas by yourself somewhere you don't know, in order to try and get sponsorship. And that's a big if that
Mm.
changes anything. So yeah, it's facing a lot of uncertainty. And I guess you have to just keep backing yourself, which a lot of people, I guess, like the security of having a job and having certainty and income and all of those things. And I've had to kind of navigate life without that this year, which has been really different. But it's not something I would change. I think it's pretty awesome to be able to say I gave it everything to chase my goals, and even if it doesn't work out, at least I gave it a go. I don't want to regret not trying.
Yeah, that's man, that you're totally right in saying that. Like in Australia, instead of, it's all what's the word I'm looking for, but they're taking the gear from the big countries. What's the word I'm looking for? They're um oh man, why can't I think about it? But they're not the actual major brand. They're just like the dealers of the brand.
Yes,
I'm missing
yeah.
the word there right now, having a mind blank. But yeah, they're it's tough here because yeah, they don't have the funding because it's not really Nike here. It's
Yeah.
someone who's buying a piece of Nike to sell their, shoes
Yeah,
or
like
whatever.
the wholesalers. Yeah.
Wholesalers, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's all wholesalers here, and yeah,
Yeah.
they won't have the budget to sponsor athletes full time, and so how do you, what do you tell yourself in these moments where that doubt comes in of like, can I make it? Am I being realistic trying to be a full-time athlete in Australia? Like, what do you tell yourself to keep you pushing in the direction that you want?
Well, one person's story that's really helped me with this is Rachel Entrechan. So I don't know if you've heard her speak much at
Yeah,
all, but
yeah.
she didn't really have proper sponsorship until I think it was after Cocodona last year, if I'm right. But that was already the second time she'd won that, and she's won many other events besides. And she talks about how she had to wait a long time and just trust that the universe would provide something, so she didn't sign up to deals that didn't reflect her value. She waited for the right kind of match to come along.
Mm.
And there was a lot of times during that journey where she felt like she should give up and just go back and get a real job. And I've definitely been through the same things. But yeah, that's a story that I take a lot of confidence from, and I'm trying to just, yeah, channel my inner Rachel Entrechan and be patient. And the universe has come through for me a lot of times before, and especially with all the fundraising and things that we did for Western States. So I think yeah, I just keep the hope that something is coming, and if not, I've got a lot of other skills and experiences I can fall back on, and yeah, I'll find another job and life will go on.
And it sounds like you're probably pulling a lot of happiness from this experience too, right? Which is probably a massive motivator.
Yeah, definitely. I think
Yeah.
that even if I don't progress with the professional running thing, it's been an amazing experience for me. I've never been able to just focus on running or any sport. I've always mixed it with so many other things, and I didn't realize how stressed out and probably burnt out I was before I gave up my job. And I've grown a lot and learned a lot, and been able to just have some time for reflection and self growth this year, which I never would have got if I was still working full time. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's all good.
It's like I've heard this term before, people call it like life points, right?
Mm.
Rather than like dollars. And it's
Yeah,
like, ask yourself the question of like, what's more valuable to you, like dollars in the bank or life points in the bank, right?
yeah.
And yeah, and takes away that, then maybe that mindset of getting stuck in, oh, I gotta have the money, I gotta have this and all these things, where it's like, well, if you focus on that, then maybe there's a lot of life points here that you could be missing. Or
Definitely. I'm definitely a life points person, not a
yeah,
not a money person. But
yeah,
unfortunately, we do need a lot of it to survive these
yeah.
days.
Oh yeah. They don't make it easy on us now, do they?
No, not at all. Yeah.
Yeah, we literally it's funny though, like going back to like kind of maybe simplifying things. Like I just had a chat with like Billy Curtis. And he is like the king of creating a simple life.
Yeah.
And the conversation was so cool from that. But it was even like this morning, um, I was walking my daughter to school, right? And because our car brakes just broke down on the weekend. And so I'm like, okay, I got to walk her to school. Still got to get her to school. And looking around, you see everyone driving. But then I was
Mm,
sitting there and I'm like walking her and we're having such great conversation and stuff. And I'm like,
yeah.
every other morning when I've gotten up, the conversation hasn't been like this with her. Right. But
Mm,
she's asking questions about like things we're seeing on the road and all these different things. And I'm like feeling like the person who's like, oh, my car's broken. I can't get daughter to school. But at the same time, like I'm having this like amazing experience with her walking 3 kilometers, from
yeah.
our house to our school kind of thing. And also she's, getting up and starting the day being active, whatever. And it's like, there was $0 spent in that experience. Right.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so valuable. Just that presence, I think that's worth more than, yeah, we don't give enough credit to it because we're all too busy stuck to our screens for most of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's awesome.
No, that's cool. So tell us now, what what what's the next big thing that you're pushing towards? And maybe not even so much as like a race or an outcome or whatever, but what's the next thing you're trying to achieve out of yourself as a person, right?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question. Um, I don't actually know. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, do
Yeah.
you? I've been very surprised of all the things that I've learnt this year that I didn't know. Um, yeah, in terms of outcome goals, the next race is Coast to Cozzy, and I've got a pretty lofty goal for that one in terms of time. But also, I'm still working on my PhD, so yeah, I'd love to be making some good progress on that this year. And then I think um, by the end of the year, probably have a better idea of what I'm doing for work. I've got some ideas about starting up a business, but yeah, I feel like I'm in a bit of a limbo at the moment. So, yeah, but I don't also want to put pressure on myself to sort it out right now. I
Of
think
course.
it's better
Yeah.
to let it happen, as it happens instead of trying to force it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I could probably maybe go a little bit more specific then on that question, but like, is there any like is there any ways of training that you are trying to, or even like carrying yourself through the day or mindset shifts or anything like that that you're really trying to reinforce more of, that you've seen value in, that you think is going to maybe help take your running to the next level, your happiness, your success? Is there anything that you're kind of focusing on in that area?
Yeah, running wise, I'm trying to improve my speed. So I'm trying to do a lot more threshold work and speed work. And yeah, seeing if I can actually, if I can get my 5K time down, then theoretically, from that distance upwards, they'll all come down.
Yeah.
So that's a big focus at the moment. Um, mindset wise with racing, I think it's following along that line of the big lesson I learnt from the two Tarawera experiences is just the sort of letting go and enjoying the moment, that helps me. And I think Coast to Cozzy will be a really good test of that because it's unique in that you get to have your crew with you
Mm.
basically the entire time. And so they can kind of set it up as just a party. Um, so that's
Cool.
what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to enjoying that and just being inspired by them and their energy because you
Yeah.
don't normally get that obviously in most, well, definitely not trail runs, and then even mostly in road or track ultras you don't have the crew there all the time. So um yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. um
And they just get to float alongside you in the car for most of
yeah,
the
yeah. So you
sections.
get one car that can follow you at a time. I'll have two separate crews, so I'll swap in and out of the car, and they can just leapfrog you and basically pretty much keep you company the whole way from after about 24 kilometers, I think.
Hmm. Oh, that sounds like it's yeah, it sounds like it's very exciting. How do you balance then your focus on speed versus your focus on the enjoyment of sport of trail running and getting out there and just enjoying the long and or easy runs? What does that balance look like to you in your training?
So speed sessions or, sessions with a specific intention would probably be 3 sessions a week. So I'm
Mhm.
going to try and do 2 threshold sessions from now until basically up to Coast to Cozzy. And then, there'll be one other session, probably a long run that might have some race pace in it, or, depending on the terrain, or maybe a tempo run or something else, and maybe an uphill treadmill session, given that Coast to Cozzy is pretty much all uphill. And then the rest of it is just all easy running, maybe an easy run with strides on one day.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just keeping it pretty, most of it's easy volume and then just a few key sessions a week.
Yeah, the elevation's all in the name, eh? Coast to Causey.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually not that bad when you think about it's got about the same elevation as Western States, but it's
Mhm.
80 k's longer. So it's
Yeah.
actually not that steep. It's,
Mhm.
just that it's all basically, well, it's not all uphill, but the uphill bits are pretty serious.
It's the gradual douche grade, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of gradual with a few short, steep
You,
bits.
you,
So
you know what I picture? It's like have you done Causey 100K
no,
or mile or
I
anything?
haven't. No.
Okay, and for anyone who's done the Causey or 100K, there's the section from Bullocks Flats to Village Green, which is just this like single track, and everyone talks about it as this like part where you're kind of running, and you feel like you're not running fast enough because it looks like it's flat, but it's
Yeah,
not
I heard of
flat,
this.
so it just
Yeah.
feels like it's really hurting.
Yeah.
But picture Coast to Causey as is this kind of like I feel like I should be moving quicker because it seems like it's flat, but the whole time you're just
Yes.
slowly creeping up.
Yeah, yeah. No, well, I'm going to go down and do a training camp at the end of October, so I'll run the key bits and try
Yeah.
and get a sense for that so that I don't panic about it on race day.
And all mainly road, isn't it? A little bit of
Yes,
trail,
so the
but
first 104 k's are unsealed road.
hmm,
Then you've got all the rest is sealed apart from there's 9 kilometers at the top of the trail that you go up and back on if the weather's good.
hmm. Yeah, cool. And then Transcend next weekend.
Yes,
Next
yes.
weekend. How are we feeling for that?
I'm excited about it. Excited to see how it goes. I have absolutely no idea what it will turn out like after last weekend. It's probably the first time I've raced back-to-back ultras in, 2 in 8 days. But I think it'll be good training, and there's a really strong field really coming to race the women's race at Transcend. So I'm looking forward to seeing whether I've got any speed in the legs.
What are I actually haven't looked at the starting list. What are some of the other female names in there?
So Anna McKenna, Kelly
Yeah.
Emerson, and Christy Laurie are all going to be there.
Yeah, Christy Laurie's a local in Perth, isn't she?
She is now. I think she
Yeah.
was living in Brisbane before, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
She's definitely raced the Guzzler. Or,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe she came over for the Guzzler. I just, know that she raced Cozzy Miler, and one of my friends crewed her, and my friend lived in Brisbane at the time, but I don't know. She may have met Christy some other way. I
Yeah.
don't know, but yeah, Christy's definitely local in Western Australia now, so I'm sure she'll know those trails like the back of her hand. I know she's done the race a couple of times before, so
Yeah. And how do you change your mindset going into different races, right? So you go into this 120, a little bit of a training race, right? You're just kind of, building through it. How does your mindset shift now going into this, like half the distance, a little bit faster now, some competition?
yeah. In a way, it's not too dissimilar. It's a training race, and
Mhm.
so there's no pressure. But I'm also excited to have a bit of competition there. You can get a bit lonely and hard to keep pushing yourself in a race like on the weekend where you're kind of out there by yourself. But yeah, having those other competitive women there, I think will be really fun, and will motivate me to really push hard and see what I can do over a shorter course.
Yeah. Where's the line between training and I'm racing this person beside me now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's when someone's within your sights, that's when
Yeah,
it becomes a race. Out of
yeah.
sight, out of mind.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So if they've, clearly stamped their foot in the ground of saying I'm running this fast and you're losing sight of them, it's kind of like cool back to training mode. Is that what you're kind of saying? Or
Uh, Mainly, it would be if I was coming up to the finish and I could see someone in front of me. Of course, I would try and catch them. I wouldn't be
yeah.
like, this is just a training run, just let them go. But if we start off and they're setting a hot pace and my legs don't feel up to it after last weekend, I'm not going to, kill myself for it.
Yeah.
I know I've got a massive week following, I start crewing Phil at 8 p.m. on the Sunday night, and I know I won't sleep on the Saturday because I never sleep after a race. So, and then I basically crew Phil 12 hours on, 8 hours off
Mhm.
for an entire 7 days. And I know that's going to take a big toll on my body. So I'm not really willing to, um, I'm not going to kill myself in Transcend anyway,
Yeah.
because I know recovery is going to be tricky. So,
Yeah.
I think it's just a bit of play it by ear and see how the body feels, really.
Hmm. How do you bridge the gaps between those races too? So you go from 120, right? And now you're in this period. Is it like, cool, got to train more? Is it like, you know what, take it easy, recover the body, a little bit of running, just try to get there healthy? What's your view on that process in between these big events and races?
As in the week in between the two races.
Yeah, like just like so the way you did 120, you're going into transcend, then you've got Phil's thing, which is also going
Yeah,
to be, big toll and ask from the body. So
yeah.
the time in between there, how do you kind of approach those gaps between the events?
Yeah, so the plan was really just recovery this week, but also because I was away for 12 days right before Barradorf, I'm really behind with my life admin and my study and all these things. So these 2 days, well, while they were meant to be very relaxing and me just, reading a book and having my compression boots on or whatever, um, it's been a lot of catching up on emails, study. This is the second podcast I've done in 2 days.
Yeah,
It's all like pack all those things in because I know I'm going away for another big stint where I just am not going to get anything done. So
yeah.
yeah, I mean that's life. It's still, even though I'm not working, there's still a lot going on. So it's not perfect, but I'm just trying to remember to eat, and I'm going for a massage after this. So that's my attempt at doing
Yeah.
something good for my body and trying to recover between the races.
One of the other female athletes actually asked me to get you on the podcast to stress you out more.
Yeah, that'd be right.
No, that's yeah, it is that balance, right? Between especially doing these, big events. What's I mean, outside of like, you've said some things like recovery boots and taking some time off. Is there any other really great ways of recovery that you find help you like de-stress in these higher stress situations? Like what do you go to for that to kind of try and shed some stress?
Occasionally I'll do some meditation. I'm not
Mm.
very diligent with that, but I do think it's a really good modality. Coming up to a big race, my mindset coach, Rob, will always make me a visualization for the
Oh,
race,
yeah.
and it's usually like a 20-minute audio track. And I sit down and, that sort of guides you to relax and visualize the race and things. So that's always a good one. But also movement helps me a lot. So even if it's just going for a walk or, if I swim, if I have access to a pool or the
Mm.
sea, which I don't at the moment. I've been on the bike. So I think just keeping like some gentle movement in there is good as well.
Yeah, I'd love to dive into that actually, the visualization aspect of things you talked about. Tell me more about that. Where'd that start? Obviously you've kept it on, so you've seen some, benefit in it, but yeah, tell me a little bit more about that.
I think it's a technique that a lot of athletes use, probably I'd say more in your skill sports than, say, ultra endurance stuff, because you can actually, I don't know, there's measurable improvements in your performance when you're practicing a skill over and over in your mind, even if you're not doing it physically. But that's basically what it's doing, is trying to program your mind. So if you've thought about this moment, say you're running through this pine forest at Tarawera and you're feeling great, or you're thinking about XYZ that's in your mindset plan, then theoretically, when you come to actually do it in real life, it should trigger you to think or feel the same way. So, yeah, that's kind of why we do it. but it's also just relaxing, and you try and bring the emotions that you want to experience on race day into it as well. So yeah, it makes you, yeah, hopefully, yeah, you can feel those on race day and have a more positive experience. Keep your mind out of the negativity and the comparisons and the mental maths on where your competitors are and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think that's amazing. You're training the brain without the physical load on the body, right?
Yeah, yeah,
To the
exactly.
experiences and sensations and things that you want to be experiencing in the race, right?
Yeah.
And that's cool. I love that. I think that's it's how I guess the question for you is how powerful or how much of a difference do you actually think that makes in your performance racing training?
I think altogether, all the mental skills stuff that I do is probably the biggest weapon that I have because, as anyone, for example, my partner will say, if you ask him, I'm not very talented at running. I'm just very stubborn. I don't give up. And so, yeah, I think that's the point of difference I probably have over a lot of competitors, especially, say, like if you look at UTA 50, there's a shorter race than what I'm used to. The girls I was racing are a lot younger, a lot faster, but they don't have the mental skills or the life experience to fall back on. And that's where, I'll pick up
Mm.
places at the end of the race. Um, yeah, so that's not to say just the visualization does that, but the whole mental skills training spectrum that I do. And I think is probably overlooked a little bit in ultra runners. I think a lot of people will have a physical coach before they have a mental coach. But
Mm.
yeah, I would debate that the mental side of it is as important, if not, for an experienced athlete, is probably more important than even the physical side.
Well, yeah, because it's that's the thing making your legs move.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's
Yeah.
funny. Like I totally agree with you. Like it's funny how we think of things as so physical, but it's all coming from the brain anyways. Every
Yes.
every single thing we do is coming from that same location, right?
So true.
Um, and that's cool. I think that I would agree with you and say that's probably making a very powerful difference in your performance and training if you feel like you have a pretty good grasp of that. So, no, that's awesome. As far as time goes, we will let you get on with your day. But one thing I'd love for you to maybe just like sign off with is what are like 2 to 3 things that you would give, anyone advice into whether it's they're trying to, start this world in trail running, whether they're trying to increase their performance? What would you say are 2 to 3 things that would really help them start that journey or continue that journey?
Mm. I would say having a good team around you. So whether that be professional people like coaches, mindset coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, physios, whatever you need, that could be it, sports dietitian. But it could just be family, friends, training buddies, like
Mm.
making your training social, I think is really important, and connecting with people. I think that's a really strong way to stay involved in the sport and stay motivated. And to improve as well, like training with other people is really good for your development. And then I think related to that, enjoying the process. I think for me, that's the biggest thing. People always ask you, why do you get up early? Why do you train 2 or 3 times in a day? Why have you done it every day for the last 20 years? Because I love it. It's not a chore for me. And it gives me the freedom to race without that worry that, oh no, I've spent so many hours training. If I don't go well in this race, it's the end of the world, because I've gotten something out of every single one of those training sessions,
Mm.
whether it's a lesson or just the runner's high or a connection with someone that I'm training with. I've enjoyed it all along the way. So it doesn't matter how you perform on the day. That's kind of just the cherry on top of the cake, I guess.
Yeah. And that idea, like, of loving the process and just, that's the thing that helps you get up in the morning and do the sessions because you love it. Do you think you've always loved it from the start? Do you think it's something that you've actually had to build over time?
Uh, it is something that I've had to build, but I think after it becomes a habit,
Hmm.
then, and I don't know how long that takes, it's probably different for different people.
Yeah.
Um, then it just becomes something that you do. You don't have to
Yeah.
think about it. Even if you wake up and you think, oh, I don't feel like doing this today, you just go out and do it because it's what you do. But yeah, when I first got into it, when I first got into triathlon and, I had to go to this unheated pool in the middle of winter in Tasmania and get in and train, yeah, there were definitely times when I thought, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. But yeah, every time you do one of those things that you don't want to do, it strengthens your mind. And then next time you come to do it, you're like, well, I did it last time, so I might as well just do it this time. So
Yeah. Yeah.
just keep doing it.
Yeah, and because the reason I asked that question is like, as a coach myself, one of the biggest things I see is the people who love it always end up, being more adhering to the program or being more consistent in their training, which we know is so important, right? And so it's almost like, how do you foster that love for something, right? Because people will say that they enjoy something or, it excites them being outdoors. But I
Mm.
think like personally, I think there is a big difference between someone who purely loves it and does it, and it ends up being easy for them, right? And
Yeah.
someone who enjoys it, but maybe there's still a way for them to foster that love, so it does become something that is just happens every morning, and they just get up
Mhm.
like exactly like you said. Because yeah, I see that in a lot of different people where it's like, if you can find a way to truly love it, it almost makes training, it makes everything a little bit easier, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know whether it's something to do with intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, but whether
Mm.
you're born with that or it's something that you can build, I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
I imagine you can build it, but it's focusing on the right things that build that internal motivation as opposed to the external motivation, I think.
Yeah. No, I love that. Holly, hey, thank you so much for your time. That was awesome. I feel like I know you so much more now, which is awesome. And now I'm gonna take a little bit more inspiration out of watching your successes every time you're out there and enjoying whether it's big training runs or big races or whatever it is. But yeah, if people wanted to reach out to you because they resonated with anything or they just had questions for you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you or contact you?
Probably Instagram is good. So
Yeah,
at Holly R. Ranson is my
yeah.
Instagram.
And because it says Holly Ranson PT, do you still do any coaching or anything like that? Or are you totally like that's it, full time
Not
athlete?
at the moment. No, I haven't done any PT for a really long time. But
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's my email address, hollyransonpt@gmail.com. So if you want to send me an email, send me an email.
Yeah, there you go. Some people love email, right? Yeah.
Yes, true, true. Yeah,
Cool. All right, Holly. Well, thank you so much for your time. Good luck at Transcend. We'll be rooting for you. I hope you crush
thanks,
it out
Quentin.
there. And
Enjoyed the chat.
yeah, we will talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
And that was my conversation with Holly Ranson. There were some amazing pieces of inspiration to take away from that conversation with Holly. I know I took a lot. I hope you took a lot. And if you enjoyed this, guys, please, like, subscribe, follow, share it, whatever it takes, send it to friends if you think that there's something that they can also take from this conversation. But I hope you enjoyed and happy trails.